This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Deep of Law XRT. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is July 2019, 6th July 2019. The first article is op-ed page, Searching for Reform Signals. So, in this article, the first is Govind Rao. What he discusses is there is no proper effort made towards improvising the investment climate in India. So, the growth is falling down. The growth is getting impacted majorly because of lack of animal spirits in the economy. Here, the animal spirits refers to a strong instinct that the investment will lead to future profits. So, animal spirits will lead to greater private investments, greater production, and boost in economic growth. So, in this case, the government is expected to bring in some stimulus to bring in growth, but there is no stimulus provided. Our government has to invest or make more expenditure on infrastructure. The infrastructure expenditure is also not up to the expected mark. So, any investment can be public investment. So, there is no effort towards the public investment, and there are no incentives for the private investments. It means no tax benefits, etc., which is called as stimulus. And there is no increased infrastructure expenditure from the government side. Normally, when public investment increases, surrounding that the confidence of the private investors will increase, and it also gives a boost to the private investment. But the government is trying to increase the foreign investments. It is relaxing the FDI norms so that more foreign investors can come into India. And then the capital expenditure, which is supposed to be a productive expenditure, is actually coming down by 6% on nominal terms and 10% on real terms. It means that the public investment, rather than getting increased, it is actually getting decreased. But why the government did not do this stimulus? The major concern for the government is still the fiscal consolidation. The finance minister stated that 3.3% is the target to achieve the fiscal consolidation. So, in this case, let's see the budget holistically. So, there is revenue side and then capital side with regard to the receipts are concerned. From where the money is going to come from? On the revenue side, we have tax receipts and non-tax receipts. The tax receipts are expected to increase from 19 to 25%, but it's a bit over killing. The reason is this: last year the government failed to reach its tax targets. So, to what extent government will realize them this year? By and over 25% is a major question. So, last year being election year, probably the government has tightened the officers not to go to the traders. But this year, as it got the mandate, probably it can try to tighten on the traders, business people to collect more taxes. And the second, non-tax revenues. These are majorly supposed to come from dividends. So dividends from public sector banks, RBI, etc. So RBI dividends are the major thing which the government is hoping on. The major reason is if Bimal Jalan committee recommends the surplus with the RBI balance sheet can be used by the government as a dividend, that's kind of a huge windfall for the government. So that's why the biggest source is dividends. And the second biggest source is disinvestments. So on the capital receipts, the government is trying to sell off public sector undertakings. It is also making strategic sales. It means any sale less than 51% of holding is called a strategic sale. So other than financial companies, government is ready to disinvest less than 51%. And the second thing is the government is also trying to bring in more disinvestments in 51 in finance companies in a different ways. It means this 51% is not just the government holding alone. It will be counted. Any government undertaking also holds to that extent. It means that if a company PSU has 51% of the government holding and then LIC holding some 10%, the total shareholding comes to 60%. It means that 61%, it means that it is excess of 51%. So this 10% can also be disinvested. Previously, the holding of the LICs, various financial institutions, was not taken into consideration. Today, it is also taken into consideration. And Further to this, there is a retrogressive step in this. What is that? In a free trade, the customs duties have to be relaxed by India. For the first time after liberalization, India took a drastic step of raising the customs duties, tariffs. Obviously, it's a more protectionist measure. This protectionist measure in the name of Make in India may not go well with our trading partners. That is the problem. And the next, with regard to the industry, there is one benefit. The labor laws are being relaxed, and these labor laws are being reduced to a four laws which is called a labor code. Once the labor laws are relaxed, there will be no protection to the worker, there will be no protection to the job, but there will be protection to the worker. It means simultaneously government is trying to protect the worker and removing the job security. It means that hire and fire can come up, but when a job is been lost, there will be social security benefits that can protect him. This is how government thinking is. Coming to the banking sector, so NPAs of the banks are the major problem. So the budget has proposed for 70,000 crore of a fund for recapitalization. And the next, non-banking finance companies are also facing a challenge. You know that IL and FS is a failure, and then many other banks like DHFS is also facing a failure. So in this case, NBFCs are going to be the next major challenge to India. So regulation of NBFCs, it was given to the RBI. And second, there was a proposal for RBI to provide liquidity to the NBFCs. Rather than RBI giving that liquidity, the commercial banks can buy the assets of the NBFCs now, and these commercial banks will get 6 months credit. It means that the RBI will give credit to the commercial banks. Commercial banks can buy the assets of the NBFCs, non-banking finance companies. And the next, consolidation of the banks is another thing which is being proposed for. But however, today commercial banks need more governance and accountability reforms, but there is a little stress on accountability and governance reforms. And the corporate sector, so consolidation of the MSMEs to grow big is essential. So whenever we are giving tax benefits to the small companies, obviously they will have an incentive to remain small. In this case, the corporate tax benefits are extended to MSMEs up to 400 crore rupees. It means your turnover is less than 400 crore rupees. The corporate tax on you will be just 25%. If it is greater than 400 crore, you have to pay 30%. It means that larger you are a giant, then you need to shell more money outside. It means, in a way, government is incentivizing the companies to stay small. So this is what a retrogressive step again. Coming to cooperative federalism, so cess and surcharge cannot be shared with the states. It means this is totally a revenue of the center. If income tax or duties, GST or duties are raised, then it is shared with the states. So, if the center is imposing the cess and surcharges, it is not willing to share its revenues with the states. Obviously, it will be a hard burn to the states. So, petrol and diesel, what is imposed is a surcharge. And then income tax on super rich people having greater than 2 crore of income, it is 2%. And 5 crore of income, it is around 7%. This entire thing is in the form of cess and surcharge. Obviously, center will not be sharing that money with the states. It is not in the spirit of the cooperative federalism. And the next, government wants to mobilize certain resources. One of the way is to mobilize from outside. These are called external borrowings or external debt, we call it as. So India is maintaining its external debt less than 5% because of BOP crisis which it has faced in 1991. Now this government wants to explore this as an option to raise its capital. So in this context, government can liberally borrow from outside India. That is one thing which is stated. And the next, remember a point over here. India is today growing not because of investments, it is majorly due to consumption demand. And this consumption demand is not coming from the earnings, it is actually coming from debt. So we are borrowing and we are spending the money on it. Most of the households are doing it. They are buying bikes with the borrowed money. So once a vicious cycle starts, that can be dangerous to the economy. We need to at that point. And added to that, tax reforms. One is, as I said to you, on MSMEs, if their turnover is less than 400 crores, obviously the corporate tax will be 25%. And then high income, super rich, for these people, there is extra surcharge. And tax administration has seen an important reform. What the finance minister stated is faceless assessment. It means that you don't need to see the income tax inspector's face. And whenever there is a human interface between these two, it is leading to greater corruption. So that's why from a centralized office you will get the notices and you give it in writing and someone will be checking in the central office. So this way a faceless communication happens between the two. So in a nutshell, what we can see from this open page, the emphasis is not on raising stimulus or raising investments, and the emphasis is more about maintaining the fiscal balance, and tax expectations and non-tax revenue expectations either in the form of dividends or disinvestments are very high for the government. So let us wait and see. The next is bucks for the banks. Most of these points we have already discussed in the previous this thing. Let us see in connection with the banking sector what it is talking about. So as you know, to face the NPAs and to bring back the credit growth in the economy, the banking sector needs to be revived. For that 70,000 crores capital infusion is given to the banks. This is what is called recapitalization of public sector banks. And the non-banking finance companies, these are going to come under the regulation of RBI. And 1 lakh crore liquidity window was given for commercial banks to buy the assets of the NPFCs. So 1 lakh crore liquidity is promised for commercial banks to buy the assets of NBFCs. And the next is, we do not have long-term infrastructure financing requirements. For this, developmental financial institutions are going to be revived. The next important word, the debenture redemption norms are relaxed. What is this debenture redemption norms? Any company or NBFC for that matter, if it is taking loans from the public, certain percentage of the loans have to be saved. So it is to protect these investors of the private companies from the risk from failure. So it means if I am collecting 100 crore from the public, I shall save some 10 or 15 crores in a as a dead money. It shall not be used for financing. This is kind of a cushion to meet the emergencies. This is called debenture redemption norms. So these are there for every company, and NBFCs also need to follow this. NBFCs have a long-term demand that they shall be treated as like banks itself. So obviously government is also considering that. In a way, the banking sector has got a revival plan. And the next other reforms, if we consider in this article, so non-financial companies are going to get a strategic sale. It means that the government share in these companies will go less than 51% even if they are profitable. And the next, angel tax. So many of the startups which are getting angel tax are also being taxed as a revenue. So this budget has removed this angel tax. It means that any funding, seed funding which has been which has come to the startups will not be taxed. And PAN and Aadhaar will be interchangeable now. It means that there will be a single identity card. As I said to you, procedural reform is faceless e-assessment. And then tax concessions are being offered to real estate companies to promote the construction sector, which is the second largest employer in the country. And then there is a push towards digitalization. How they have given push? If any withdrawals from the banks are greater than 1 crore of rupees, there is a liability of 2% of tax. So in a way, it can also encourage more cash transactions. Let me put this way. If I keep more money in the banks, that is, then to withdraw that I have to pay the tax. Then what I will do, I keep the money rather than getting it deposited in the banks. If you take real estate, most of the money is paid by the real estate companies to the workers in cash. So in that context, 1 crore can be easily breached by them within a month. So that's why instead of paying them in cash, they may pay end up. Instead of paying it digitally, they end up paying the cash which is not deposited in the banks. And then electronic vehicles, they are given a tax deduction up to 1.5 lakhs on interest paid by them. It means if you buy an electronic vehicle, on the loan interest you get 1.5 lakh, up to that some relaxation. And on the other hand, custom duties are increased, which is a retrogressive step. And tax revenues are projected to close to the rise of 25%, which is a bit of optimistic figure. Finally, the dividends are expected to increase in the form of non-tax revenues. And with regard to the capital expenditure or capital revenues, disinvestments are tuned to the 1 lakh 5,000 crore rupees, which is more than 20,000 crore rupees compared to the previous budget. Choosing the long view. In this, what the author is trying to say is, though the investments are not being raised, there are many steps which are taken to boost the investment climate. So the government is not directly spending the money on the invest in the form of investments or as infrastructure expenditure. It is more doing that indirectly by promoting various systems and processes. It means that simplification of the systems and processes can bring in animal spirits. So, budget is an important macroeconomic policy statement. Though government spending is not increasing, the stimulus is coming from other routes, is the essence of this article. How it is coming? So, any production, land, labor, capital is required. So, modal land loss and acquiring of the land is being made simple. And the second, labor laws are being relaxed. And capital, the credit growth is being boosted through the recapitalization of the banks. And then it also trying to improve the governance in the form of tax laws reforms, and also providing for an consolidated ministries such as Jal Shakti ministry, etc. So the government is doing all stimulus rather than through investment. It is through the simplification of the process and improving the ease of doing business. And the next is falling far short of the goal. In this article, author says that normally in a neoliberal economy, the focus shall be on government's focus shall be on welfare. It means that marginalized and then long-term investments such as infrastructure, they shall get the boost from government. And the private sector has to ensure production and shall bring in growth. Now here, government investment shall boost the private confidence. So the government spending shall kickstart the growth, but that is being ignored. And then various important schemes of the government, such as the MG Narega, Pradhan Mantri Gramin, that is Sadak Yojana, all these have got the less funds now. So the most important schemes which are necessary to create the infrastructure, rural infrastructure, also got the less funds. And there is also a regressive element. What is that? Oil prices are rising. So now, when surcharge is imposed or 1 or 2 rupees onto these oil prices, obviously it is going to increase the burden on the pocket of the common man. So, on rising fuel prices, over and above that government is earning, that is retrogressive. And the next is the strategic sale of the major resource generating companies is proposed for, and government wants to realize 1 lakh 5,000 crores from these. So in this context, the strategic asset sale, the government for the last 3 years did not get the expected revenues. To what extent it will get now is full. Next article, these are the news articles. So the first article is the fiscal deficit target revised downwards to 3.3%. The interim budget stated it as 3.4%. Finance minister reduced it to 3.3%. So majorly increase in revenue and decreased expenditure is the objective through which it wants to be realized. So in this context, we already discussed dividends, disinvestments are the revenue, and then expenditure on various flagship programs, especially MG Narega kind of flagship programs, has reduced. So in these circumstances, the government is expected to bring down the fiscal deficit to 3.3%. And the next is so, slew of steps to boost digital payments. What does that mean? So, any person withdrawing greater than 1 crore of rupees has to pay a 2% tax as TDS, tax deducted at source. And the next is the any company which has a business with an annual turnover of greater than 50 crore, it need not pay any MDR, merchant discount rate. It means this is what is the rate which is deducted when you pay through the card. Let's take if you are coming to the institute and paying some 10,000 rupees, 1% etc. is deducted by the bank from the institute. This is what is called MDR, merchant discount rate. If turnover is greater than 50 crore, then there will be no MDR or other fees that will be collected from. So this is to improve the digital payments. And the next is 1.05 lakh crore is disinvestment target. As I said to you, the government has decided to make a strategic sale up to 51% other than the finance companies. So, second thing is the 51% will be calculated not just the government investment but also investment from other government controlled entities like LIC. So, these all are going to raise the revenue. And the next, RBI can supersede NBFC board. As I said to you, NBFC saw a huge amount of reform over here. The first reform is the NBFCs are coming under the regulation of the RBI, and the second, NBFCs also will be slowly treated like any other like bank. And the next part is the NBFC's assets will be bought by the commercial banks and 1 lakh window is being provided for. And the most important thing is if any NBFC is not following the norms of the regulator, then its board can be superseded by the government, that is RBI. So it means NBFCs which are not following the norms are going to face the whip. That is what this article is talking about. A shot in the arm for the struggling MSMEs. So there are two important things for MSMEs over here. There is 2% interest subvention scheme for all GST registered MSMEs, and also there is pension benefits for MSMEs which are doing less than 1.5 crore turnover. And above all, there is a scheme of fund for upgradation and regeneration of traditional industries, and 100 new clusters are being attached. It means that the 50,000 plus artisans in the traditional industry will be benefited from this. And above all, a loan of 1 crore will be offered within 59 minutes for the MSMEs. Let's revise again. 2% interest subvention for all registered MSMEs with GST. And the second is a premium a pension benefit of is given for the MSMEs with less than 1.5 crore, and the loans will be easily offered. And another more thing, MSMEs they get the delayed payments from the government. So any MSME supplying to the government is going to be in losses because funds are not released on time. So that's why a streamlined payment procedure is being brought in for the MSMEs. These are the benefits offered to it. Growth capital for public sector banks. So this article talks about 70,000 crore income which was given, recapitalization benefit which was given to the public sector undertakings. And added to that, with 70,000 crore of the capital infusion, many of the public sector banks will be out of this prompt corrective action. So what this prompt corrective action talks about, the banks facing higher NPAs are given stringent norms to follow. These norms will be relaxed, and then it can facilitate something called credit growth. And the next is zero budget for farmers, no drought relief. This article says that there are no proper allocations for PM Kisan, 75,000 crores, though offered it is not sufficient. What is expected is 87,000 crore rupees. And the only benefits farmers got is 10,000 plus farmers producers organizations are announced. And MSPs, they did not get the proper budget support. Though 50,000 crores was given, it is not sufficient. So the PM Asha is the program to improve the MSPs, that is minimum support price to the farmers. And next, Disinvestment. So now government is trying to take forward the disinvestment of Air India. And then the government intends to make India as a hub for maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities, which are called MRO facilities, and call for port-led development. In this, the Sagarmala has got the boost. And the next is new package in the offering to ensure power for all. So one country, one grid. So one single national grid to easily transfer power from surplus states to the deficit states has been proposed. And also tariffs vary from one state to the other state. One country, one grid, one tariff. And the second, the Uday, which is meant to stabilize the discoms, the state discoms did not take off properly. So that's why government is trying to take a relook on the Uday. So the power sector is going to get a total overhaul. These are the articles. The next is maximum public holding raised for listed firms. So as of now, listed firms have to release 25% to the public holding. Now this is raised to 35%. It means the big companies like TCS, etc., they do not have 35% for public holding. It means more shares are expected to come into the stock exchanges for trading. And finally, thank you very much. Have a great day.